5 songs, 5 different artists, 5 completely different sounds. But here's the thing, nobody told you they were all played by the same 15 people. The same drummer, the same bass player, the same guitarist. On every record you just saw, and if I put their pictures on screen right now, you wouldn't recognize a single face. That's the story of the Wrecking Crew, the most recorded musicians in history, and the best kept secret in rock and roll. Let me give you some numbers. 1 drummer, 40 #1 hits, 150 gold records, 6 consecutive Grammy Records of the Year. 1 name, Hal Blaine. You've never heard of him. 1 bass player, she estimates she's played on over 10,000 recording sessions. 1 name, Kaye. And I'm willing to bet the only reason some of you know that name is because you've been in this comment section for the last week. These weren't backup musicians. They weren't hired hands filling seats. They were the sound of the 1960s. Full stop. To understand the Wrecking Crew, you have to understand Los Angeles in 1960. New York had always been the recording capital of America, but something was shifting. The West Coast was getting loud. Record labels started flying their artists to LA to record. The problem? The artists couldn't always bring their own bands. So the labels hired local session musicians, professional players who could walk into a studio cold, read a chart they'd never seen, nail it in 2 takes, and go home. These weren't random guys. These were the best players in the world. And they kept showing up, on the same sessions, with each other, the same crew, over and over again. The older generation of studio musicians had a nickname for them. They called them the Wrecking Crew, because they thought these young long-haired kids were going to wreck the traditional recording business. They were right, just not in the way they thought. This man's kick drum is the first sound you hear on Be My Baby. 4 hits. That's it. 4 drum hits, and popular music changed forever. Phil Spector hired Hal specifically because he could make a drum kit sound like a force of nature in a small room. Hal Blaine sat behind a kit for the Beach Boys, Frank Sinatra, the Byrds, Simon and Garfunkel, the Mamas and the Papas, the Ronettes, Elvis Presley. If it was a hit in the 1960s, there's a 50-50 chance Hal Blaine played on it. Now this is where the story gets personal for me. Kaye is arguably the greatest bass player who ever lived, and the conversation about her is still being had right now, today, on channels like this one. She played the bass line on Wichita Lineman. If you don't know that song, stop this video, go listen to it, and come back. She played on California Dreamin'. These boots are made for walking. River Deep Mountain High. She was also one of the only women in the room. Every session, in 1963. Think about what that means. Here's one that's going to break some of you. Before Glen Campbell was a country star, before Rhinestone Cowboy, before Wichita Lineman as the artist, he was a Wrecking Crew guitarist. He replaced Brian Wilson on Beach Boys tours when Brian stopped touring. He played guitar on Pet Sound sessions. Glen Campbell was one of the greatest guitarists alive, and for years, nobody outside of a recording booth knew it. Denny Tedesco was the most in-demand session guitarist in Hollywood history. He played on more than you can count. TV show themes, movie scores, rock records, jazz records, classical recordings. His son Denny eventually made a documentary about all of them. It took him 13 years to finish it, because the music licensing alone almost killed the project. That documentary exists because a son wanted the world to finally know his father's name. Let me take you through a single year. 1966. Good Vibrations, Beach Boys. Wrecking Crew. Monday, The Mamas and the Papas. Wrecking Crew. These Boots Are Made for Walking, Nancy Sinatra. Wrecking Crew. Strangers in the Night, Frank Sinatra. Wrecking Crew. California Dreamin', same album. Same crew. 1 year, same 15 people. And here's the part that gets me every time. The artists got the credit. The artists got the Grammys. The Wrecking Crew got a session fee and a handshake. Union rules at the time meant their names couldn't appear on the record sleeves. Most of them never got a royalty check for songs that sold millions of copies. They were invisible by design. Now, if you've been following this channel for the past week, you already know where this is going. We've been having a debate in the comments about Phil Spector and the Wall of Sound. And a viewer named Derek, who's basically been co-writing this series from the comments section, pointed out something that cracked this whole thing open. Phil didn't just use the Wrecking Crew, he weaponized them. Where a normal producer would hire 1 guitarist, Phil hired 8. All playing the same part. Simultaneously. In a room with echo chambers. The Wrecking Crew was the instrument. Gold Star Studios was the amplifier. That's the wall of sound. But here's Derek's deeper point, and he's right. The concept of sonic density. That goes back centuries. Classical arrangements. What Phil did was translate that concept into a recording booth. For a transistor radio, in 1963. That's the invention, not the density. The translation. So why didn't anyone know? Part of it was the union. The American Federation of Musicians had strict rules. Session players stayed anonymous. Part of it was the labels. They didn't want you buying records because of a session musician. They wanted you buying records because of the star. And part of it, honestly, was the players themselves. They had steady work. Good pay. No tours. No press. No drama. For a lot of them, the anonymity was the deal. Kaye has said in interviews that she was perfectly fine being invisible because the music spoke loud enough. Hal Blaine eventually wrote a memoir called Hal Blaine and the Wrecking Crew in 1990. By that point, most of the artists they'd backed were already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How about the Wrecking Crew? Still waiting. Denny Tedesco's documentary finally came out in 2008. 13 years. Music licensing fights. Near bankruptcy, he finished it because he believed the world deserved to know his father's name. If you haven't watched it, it's the homework assignment that comes with this video. The Wrecking Crew didn't need the credit. They had each other. They had the sessions. They had the music. But we needed to know because every time you hear one of those songs, you're hearing 15 people who never got their bow. Consider this their bow. One question before you go, and this one's for the historians in the room. If you had to name one Wrecking Crew member who deserves a solo Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, who is it? Drop your answer below. I'll be reading every single one. And if you know someone who lived through the 60s and doesn't know this story yet, this is the video to send them. Turn it up.